Simple things pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're a giant death factories keeping babies alive. They're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims, oh they're so good, oh they're so sweet.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. Stay tuned for further instructions.
Hey! Yeah, we broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. PulseX up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. PulseChain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guess. And we going from broke to bees, we invest. Crypto, we grow with ease, we impressing. Free game, believe we been blessing. Streams with ease, X out all of the hate. Get hooked if you want, we just offering the bait. Early on, we could often relate how to navigate crypto and picking our route. It seemed hard, but we figured it out. Our team strong, so we saying be calm, this is what we about. We broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. PulseX up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. PulseChain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guess. And we going from broke to bees, we invested. Yeah, we broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. PulseX up next, yeah, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yeah, we locking it up. PulseChain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guess. And we going from broke to bees, we invested. We're 4-5, we been flexing. 4-5, holding that Spanish. We alive and decentralized, up in our own price, we holding that canvas. Run it up, we holding that ransom. If it's not your keys, not your crypto. Get low to hate in the air, cause we hold our own coins, we ain't sticking a share. And we ain't playing it fair, we need billions. Going straight to the moon, don't need ceilings. Yeah, she fine as a whoop, don't need feelings. If she sweet, then some of these secrets reveal them. You could peep too, just come subscribe. It's Brandon B, yeah, coming alive. All the haters, we supposed to kill them. Going on this road from broke to billions. We broke the ceiling. We going from broke.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough of that. Welcome, folks, to another live stream, another episode of the Brennan B Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get serious. I want to drop some alpha. I want to drop some news, some data, some insights that I'm frankly terribly surprised that no one else is talking about. Like, guys, it's time to get serious. I've been killing it when it comes to buying bottoms, and I want to share with you guys how I've been doing so. I recently discovered a bit of insight with kind of PulseX that I do want to comment on. I also want to talk about the future of this ecosystem. There's been a bit of a war going on lately between kind of Richard Hart maximalists and kind of people who are building on PulseChain, those who think diversification is okay, and those who think it is a sin against our holy savior himself, Richard Hart. If you deviate from the party line, if you go against the word of the Lord, you are cast out. You should be lashed. You should be scapegoated as carrying the sins of the tribe out into the desert, cast out for the buzzards to eat. So, folks, plenty to coming on during this live stream. And guys, look, you want to tune in because, frankly, guys, I'm serious about making it in cryptocurrency and getting rich based off how you go about investing. A lot of people find these little nuances, these little differences between, different cryptocurrencies, game theory, tokenomics, narrative as trivial. But it is not at all trivial for me. In order for me to become a successful investor, I need to get this investment thing right, folks. This is why I love delving into these little nuances. This is why, for me, these nuances are deeply, deeply impactful. Because whether or not I get these little nuances right or wrong, whether or not I understand a cryptocurrency's tokenomics, game theory, narrative well or not, it's the difference between me living a life of poverty and being shackled by in debt, or me being financially free for the rest of my life. So it's very, very important to me that I get this shit right, folks. It's not fucking trivial. Like, there's so many people in this space. I don't want to say so many, but like for people who are like OGs and you got into Hex fucking day one, you got 1 trillion Hex and you're good for life, fucking good for you, man. But I'm not. It's very important for me that I learn from my mistakes. I can't afford not to. And I want to communicate those lessons learned to you guys because it's very important for me whether or not I get this investment thing right or wrong. If I'm wrong on one of my calls, on one of the things I'm, feel comfortable publicly talking about, not only does it have reputational damage for myself, but it has personal damage for myself because I am personally invested in the things I talk about. But not just that, I also understand that I, have some degree of responsibility when it comes to communicating about these different investment opportunities in a responsible way. I understand that it's important to talk about risk and reward, to delve into the nuance and be willing to do so. So many people in this space are scared of delving into the nuance because, frankly, in order to what I see when I'm kind of attempting to diagnose what's going on with this quote unquote community, what's going on with the sometimes cult-like behavior we see, what's going on with many people's frustration as to why so few are willing to engage in nuance. It's because in order to psychologically accept all the risk that one has to endure and take on if you are to be an RH ecosystem investor, you oftentimes, for the layman, need to adopt this kind of maximalist ideology. And we see this happen all the time in Twitter spaces, on YouTube. There's been, a lot of conflict within this kind of quote unquote Hex community as of late, because we went from being kind of a Hex maximalist, Hex is the best, every other DeFi product is inferior, to now having to cope with PulseChain, PulseX, those sacrifice phases. Now other things can do well aside from Hex. And now on top of that, we're having to deal with how do we think about these new sacrifice phases? How do we think about different things launching on PulseChain? And, there's a wide variety of quality in things launching on PulseChain. There's complete and utter garbage and arguably very high quality options that are non-RH things launching on PulseChain with varying degrees of profitability, valuation, and adoption of those use cases. And people, I think, are wrongly scared to interact with this whole new dynamic. And I think our whole community doesn't know how to navigate these evolving issues, because just as I mentioned, we went from a heavily toxic, hex maximalist ideology to now having to transition to having to cope with all these new ticker symbols. And without the dear leader guiding us, this is why we're seeing so much, I think, conflict on Twitter. And I would admit that Twitter is a bit of an echo chamber, but I think Twitter is useful for getting a bit of a temperature check of the, what's left of the community. Many people have gone away since because of the bear market. The volume, the numbers, the engagement demonstrates that. But I nevertheless do think it is tremendously valuable to explore these things. And I think the people who are willing to explore these things right now, you guys viewing this live stream right now, will benefit tremendously from asking these questions and delving into the nuance and trying to understand the risk reward, what warrants our attention, what doesn't warrant our attention. These things right now, where things are boring and shit's crashing and things are pumping and again things are crashing, engagement is down, or experiencing a dip, you are rewarded for paying attention now when the bull market comes. Because folks, do not fool yourself. The bull market will come eventually. The Americans seem to be lowering the speed at which they're increasing the interest rate hikes. Everyone is suspecting that at one point they will pause the interest rate hikes, that they will reverse the interest rate hikes. Everyone is positing that eventually, within the next year or two, we will go from quantitative, tightening to quantitative easing, the printing of money. The future looks bullish. Interest rates are likely to go down. Quantitative easing, quantitative printing of money is likely to increase. We're likely to see bull markets in the stock market start to do well in the coming months and years, with a new election cycle coming up on the American side. We have the Bitcoin halving up and coming. We have a bunch of projects developing on PulseChain that's all likely to launch around the same time in the next month or two. So we have catalyst after bullish catalyst after bullish catalyst after bullish catalyst coming up in the next few months and year or two. So the people who pay fucking attention now are the people who will be the next kind of cycle, next generation OGs. When we see, noobs in the comments coming, 2 years from now, there's 15 people watching at the time of recording. During the bull market, this will be 150 people. This will be 500 people. This will be 1,000 people. And it's going to be, those people who unfortunately come and they buy after hundreds of percent pumps, and sure, there is upside potential in the bull market. But point is, guys, this is the fucking time you want to be paying attention. And I want to reward you guys for being here and for paying attention by dropping some fucking alpha, guys. I want to let you guys in on how I've been very, very consistently buying local bottoms on PulseChain, PulseX. I want to let you guys in on a bit of goings on, something I find very deeply interesting, with some PulseX statistics, some data that I think is going very, very unnoticed. I think a lot of people might be kind of dropping the ball when it comes to PulseX. And then I also kind of want to comment on the state of community, further on and so forth. So I think this is a very interesting live stream, folks. And guys, I want to make it clear, when I look at the state of things on crypto YouTube and Richard Hart YouTube, fuck, guys, it's a minefield. I see a lot of people confident in their understandings, and that scares the shit out of me, because being confident in your understanding can lead to a false sense of confidence, can lead you to stop asking questions. Like for myself, folks, I've been a cryptocurrency YouTuber since September 2020. And throughout that entire time, I feel like it's all been a massive, massive education, a degree in how to navigate new markets that are developing that are inefficient, in my opinion. I think and I argue the cryptocurrency is a deeply inefficient market. And for those of you who don't understand why that statement is very impactful, allow me to just define what an inefficient, non-efficient market is. And, you know, there's technical terminology and a lot that goes into it, but put it very simply. An efficient market is where essentially everyone understands the rules of the game equally well, understand what it takes for what constitutes, a bullish or bearish catalyst, piece of news, earnings report. You know, an efficient market, essentially the stock market, where everyone gets quarterly earning reports at the same time. Everyone gets the news of, dividend payouts at the same time. News essentially distributed equally well to everyone at the same time, and everyone understands, the price to earnings ratio. They understand, how much debt a company has. They understand how to evaluate companies, essentially. But guys, in the land of crypto, fucking no one agrees how to evaluate this shit. No one agrees. We can't even agree with each other on whether or not proof of work or proof of stake is a valid consensus mechanism. I mean, the Bitcoin guys and the ETH guys and the altcoin guys are constantly at each other's throats. We can't even agree as to what flavor of proof of stake is has longevity. We haven't even figured out scaling. Like, we live in a market defined by parabolic blow-off tops and extreme depressive periods. Nowhere, whenever we look at this market, do we see signs of efficiency? Do we see signs of everyone agreeing with each other as to how to properly evaluate these things? I don't see evidence of that anywhere. In fact, everywhere I look, I see signs of market inefficiency. And I bring this up because if you were operating in an inefficient market, and if you were able to have an above average level of insight, well, in that case, you have what it takes to outperform the market. And we're existing in a market where, kind of the index, the standard bearer is Bitcoin and Ethereum, who do several X's. When we're talking about the S&P 500, the stock market, we're talking about 8%, 10% returns a year. In crypto, we're talking about X's return. How many X's are we going to do? And if you're able to outperform that, if you're able to outperform a standard that's already outperforming the traditional finance standard, you're doing fantastic. And so this is why, again, folks, these little goddamn things matter. These little nuances are not trivial. It's fucking everything. It's the difference between a rug pull and a 10,000x is these little nerdy nuances that other people want to avoid. But if you can do the hard work of trying to parse through all this nonsense and come to the conclusion where you have an above average level of insight, well, folks, you can do quite well. And so that's kind of what I want to do in this stream. So without that, without further ado, I hope you guys fucking appreciate this 18-minute long preamble before we even get to the good stuff. So, folks, before we get going here, let me know if you guys can hear me in the fucking comments. Am I just talking to myself? I haven't even checked if my audio is good or if I'm just kind of speaking to myself here. Okay, I think you guys can indeed hear me, although I'm a little bit conflicted because I'm not receiving comments on my StreamYards. I'm streaming from StreamYards. I don't see any comments there. Can you guys? Am I talking to myself? Let me pull up my stream here on my phone. Oh, wait, I am if that was 18 minutes of waste, that would be pretty fucking annoying. Although I suppose I can just start over and state it more concisely. We can hear you loud and clear. Okay, weird. For some reason, your comments are not appearing in my thing, in my StreamYards thing. But that's okay. We will march on. Let me just pull it up on the screen here, and I could just read you guys' comments, not from StreamYards. Okay, cool. Okay, so I unfortunately just won't be able to pull your guys' comments up on the stream. See, we had JB here, but that's all I'm seeing in my comments. So that's okay. I'll just call you guys out individually. So Aaron is in the house. JB, like I mentioned, people fading PulseX, saying Pulse will outperform. but holy hell, they must not understand those insane burns. So guys, look, this is kind of what's prompting this whole conversation, because I've been dollar cost averaging into this ecosystem, but I'm extremely, extremely, extremely torn as to whether or not I should deploy my dry powder towards PulseChain, Hex, or PulseX. And I kind of wanted to delve into some of those considerations. Because if I can just share my screen very, very briefly here. If you guys can see this. Yeah, so I put out a poll other day or something. Yeah, other day, basically asking y'all, if you had to pick only one to hold for the next 2 years, what would you choose? PulseX, Hex, or PulseChain? And the majority of you guys said PulseChain. And I'm very, very conflicted because there's a couple good reasons and a couple bad reasons as to why this might make sense or might not make sense. Number one, PulseChain is in its first cycle. Furu Finance pointed out the last time I streamed with him that in a sense, PulseChain and PulseX are in a second cycle because during the SAC phase, people essentially encapsulated their economic energy and their gains from Hex in the sacrifice. And because it had a sacrifice round, in a sense, it kind of already had its first cycle. But I don't know. I'm not sure how impactful that point is because Ethereum had an ICO. Other cryptocurrencies had ICOs. Other cryptocurrencies had fundraising rounds. And additionally, new participants entering this market, come the bull market, are very likely to see PulseChain and PulseX as being in its first cycle. So narrative-wise, there is the understanding that this seems to be in its first cycle. So because of that, because that layer one smart contract blockchains are typically the safest play, they typically get the most notoriety, there's a very strong case for the most amount of buy pressure going towards PulseChain. But one of the most important things to consider when it comes to attempting to outperform the market is being a contrarian. Oftentimes the market is wrong. What most people think is going to happen typically isn't what most people happen. And so in that case, it would make sense to perhaps choose PulseX or PHEX. But I'm really only asking hexicans, people within our community, PulseChain people, PulseX people. I'm not asking kind of the general market. And so, the polling is very much skewed to an audience that's already receptive and understanding of what's going on within our niche. And so I don't think this is kind of representative of what a crypto, not necessarily like a Richard Hart ecosystem, but what a crypto ecosystem may or may not think. That paired with the understanding that there's actually some insane bullish data points that I'm so surprised that there isn't a greater narrative going on within our community as to how very, very interesting and very, very promising that the data points are with PulseX. And I think I want to do a better job of explaining that. But guys, I'm so torn because on the other hand, we have the buy and burn. There's so many things to consider, so many different dynamics, so many different points of view to consider when asking ourselves, where should we deploy dry powder, PulseChain or PulseX, right? Like, I think PulseX has some kind of undervalued, really cool tokenomics with a buy and burn and some really cool statistics that I want to delve into. And I think PulseX might become extremely scarce. But at the one hand, PulseChain's kind of the name brand. I can see a very obvious case of more buy pressure being pointed towards, PulseChain because of that. And also, with Hex, things in the second cycle tend to do not as well. I think a lot of people in our community are very, very bullish and very optimistic about Hex's performance coming this cycle. And I hear many people say that they think Hex might even outperform this cycle, might outperform PulseChain, PulseX. But I don't know, guys. I'm doubtful. Guys, we had the doubling of supply with the launch of PulseChain. We have the fact that Hex is extremely good, and there's a lot of people who didn't realize profits and will be much more so inclined to realize profits come this next bull market. Additionally, we ask ourselves, if we take our, like, if we kind of remove our perspective from this community and ask ourselves, how is new buy pressure going to view this community, going to view these opportunities, and how is new buy pressure likely to view these three options outside of our own perspective, our own community? Guys, like, if you ask anyone outside our community, what's likely to do the best? Where would you put your dry powder? You know, an ecosystem's main decentralized exchange, PulseX, an ecosystem's main DeFi product, Hex, or a layer one smart contract blockchain. The vast majority of people outside our community would say that, and would likely put their money towards the main layer one ecosystem coin, which is PulseChain. And it's not my opinion, guys. We see it in the charts. There's a reason why Ethereum outperforms Uniswap. There's a reason why Avalanche outperforms Trader Joe. There's a reason why Solana outperforms its main layer one exchange. There's a reason why Binance Smart Chain outperformed PancakeSwap, guys. There's, a greater degree of risk and less exposure and less total addressable market with the decentralized exchanges, with the main DeFi product on a smart contract blockchain. And this is only an open question within our, community, PulseChain, Richard Heart community. But if you ask anyone outside our community, guys, there's a very, very heavy emphasis on PulseChain. Frankly, the only bullish case that PulseX and Hex have going for it in terms of potentially outperforming is the fact that, again, typically you got to go against the crowd. What the crowd thinks is typically wrong. Typically, it's the contrarian who outperforms. If everyone's saying PulseChain is going to be the thing, then typically it's not the thing. But again, Hex is in its second cycle. Its supply is doubled. PulseX has some really cool tokenomics. Same with Hex. So we got to weigh these different considerations, and it's not obvious which one will outperform. What we can say is that PulseChain probably has the least amount of risk, but typically, higher risk, higher reward. But there's also an extremely important distinction that we need to clarify, which is there is a massive, massive, massive difference between the perception of risk and actual real risk. And that's why I would argue that something like PulseChain is such a sure bet for me personally, because I think there's a massive dichotomy between the perception of the risk and the actual risk. Like an Ethereum 2.0 fork with a massive community, fuck, guys. I think there's only a massive perception of risk due to the lack of familiarity from people outside our ecosystem. But if you're familiar with what's going on, you've done your research, you've compared PulseChain with other Ethereum competitors who've done amazingly, I mean, it's a fucking no-brainer. But that's just because we're in this thing and we're familiar with what's going on. So look, these are just kind of some of the considerations we got to keep in mind here, because I will get to, this is just kind of the preamble that's kind of framing the question as to how we should deploy dry powder, because I'm currently still hanging on to some dry powder, and in this stream, I want to discuss some more kind of practical things that's kind of swaying my thinking on this matter. But before I delve into that even further, let me just keep reading what you guys have in the comments here. I don't know why StreamYard's is not showing me your guys' comments, but I see Cryptoland saying we hear you. Count Hackshell is saying loud and clear. The Money Man saying my guy. Yeah, well, thank you guys for letting me know you can hear me. You might want to take your blood pressure meds, maybe. Well, in your own words, Brando, PulseX doesn't have a use case yet. There is no staking yet. PulseChain needs to be used all the time. Big projects are coming, and they do need to use it as well. Yeah, so guys, look, this is something we need to keep in mind, and this is why I went so hard on Twitter and on YouTube when Richard Hart tried to gaslight us into make-believing that he never set the design expectation of single-side staking, and then also tried to gaslight us into make-believing that that's not important. Guys, look, there's a difference between use case and tokenomics, okay? PulseChain's use case is a gas token. That's its use case, but it has tokenomics of being deflationary. You got to pair the two, you got product market fit. Hex's use case is decentralized, counterparty free, third party risk free yield. So oftentimes when you want to seek yield, you got to go to like Celsius, right? But when you use the Celsius platform, you have that third party risk of what if they fucking just rug pull you, right? So with Hex, you're just interacting with the immutable smart contract, which removes that degree of risk. So that's its use case. Counterparty risk-free decentralized yield. That's Hex's use case. Its tokenomics is the T-share system, right? You pair the two, great product market fit, 10,000x. Now let's talk about PulseX. PulseX has some great tokenomics of the buy and burn, but what the fuck is the use case? What can you do without the token? It's supposed to be a governance token. That's fucking gone. So without that, you can't do anything with the PulseX token. There's no single-side staking. There's no governance. It's just a duct tape on token that Richard Hart rightfully criticized duct tape on tokens with the example of Uniswap. The Uni token fucking does nothing. Can't do anything with it. It's a duct tape on token. The only reason why it pumps is just because it has name affiliation, but there's no actual connection between the swap and the token. The two don't interact whatsoever. So without single-side staking, without governance, PulseX is left without a use case and therefore left without a bullish narrative and therefore is likely to perform not as well. This was very fucking obvious to everyone within our community 2 years ago, but now people are suffering from amnesia and they have to fucking do backflips to justify why yield doesn't matter all of a sudden. Fucking yield does matter. This is why people buy dividend stocks. Like, getting a yield fucking matters tremendously, even if it's in a shit token, even if it's 1, 2, 3, 4% a year, whatever it is. Getting a yield matters. It's the whole fucking reason why Hex exists. I cannot believe I'm having to explain to Hexicans why a yield is important, but fuck, that's where we find ourselves, I guess. So yeah, that's another important consideration that is very important to bring up if we're asking ourselves, where do we deploy our dry powder, PulseChain or PulseX? I think if we do get single-side staking, and the way we get single-side staking fucking dramatically impacts, I know sure shit, my buying behavior. The reason why I felt so comfortable going so heavy in the sacrifice phase and buying so much PulseX now and dollar cost averaging was fucking because of the single-side staking and the ability to earn a yield. If we don't get that, I will feel much fucking less comfortable with my PulseX, and I will deploy my dry powder exclusively to things like PulseChain and Hex, where I can earn a yield theoretically with being a validator or a rocket pool fork or staking Hex. All right, guys, like, earning a yield fucking matters. Like, everyone's lost their mind because we have to cope with the absurdity of Richard Hart, like saying that single-side staking doesn't matter all of a fucking sudden. Meanwhile, wasn't it real fucking convenient that during the SAC phase, all single-side staking really was fucking cool? But now that we're live, single-side staking, fuck off, guys. This shit's obvious. I don't want to be personal with this shit. Like, it's okay for people to have a difference of opinion. But again, like, for me, guys, it's very important to articulate this shit because it's not trivial. Whether I get single-side staking or not will deeply fucking impact my life savings and the fucking life savings of I'm betting a lot of you. So it's important whether or not this shit happens or not. We're not fucking talking about sports here. We're talking about our life savings, right? I don't know about y'all, but I got my whole life savings in this stuff. So it's not fucking cute whether or not this happens. It's actually fucking pretty deeply impactful. Like and subscribe, folks. The fuck else are you guys saying here? You guys are triggering me. I'm trying to fucking drop all this alpha, and you guys are saying all this stuff in the comments, and I don't want to be a dick and just ignore you guys. So I gotta read your comments. Like and subscribe. Share the stream. Kubrick Max is saying being contrarian is fine, but you need a strong thesis to stand on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, these are all great options. We're just trying to figure out if there's an edge. Can we find an edge? Can we see if there's a little bit of alpha, here that might give us some inkling as to what may or may not outperform? That's kind of what we're trying to do right now. But we're essentially debating, 3 great options. We're just trying to find out if one option is slightly better than the others, kind of thing. Day Wage is saying, I see majority not convinced about PulseX. That's a good sign for me personally. Of course, yeah, guys, like being contrarian is typically the way you outperform the market for sure. But, you know, like there's multiple considerations. Like it's not so clear cut. This is why, you know, you get rewarded for having an above average level of insight. And the only way you get there is by fucking discussing these things. PulseX in a bull run will pump very hard and quick. Imagine 300 mil daily volume. Yep. As an outsider, I would first buy PulseChain. Exactly. Yeah. Crypto saying it. Yeah. That's a very good point. So that's what we got to consider. Like PulseX has some cool tokenomics. You know, it might be the contrarian play. But if everyone and their mother is buying PulseChain, you could have the fucking coolest game theory in the world. You know, what matters at the end of the day is what the fucking market decides. The market is what proves you right or wrong. You know, you could have the fucking greatest opinion in the world, but if the market disagrees with you, then the market disagrees with you, right? Like, let me share my screen briefly once more. Like, just kind of show you what I mean. Right? Like people can have all their theories all the live long day as to whether or not single side staking matters or not. But you know what matters is the market. The market will tell you whether your thesis is right or wrong. And as we can see, this was the news of single side staking being removed. This was the news of single side staking being added. The fucking market sure shit seems to think that single side staking and earning a yield matters, regardless of like, you know, arguments saying, trust me, bro, single-side staking is stupid. Like, that's essentially the strongest argument I've heard as to why single-side staking doesn't matter. Is like, just trust me, bro, it's like stupid. That's literally like the strongest argument I've heard. Like, I don't understand. Again, let's not beat a dead horse here, but my point is the fucking market will tell you whether your thesis is right or wrong. And the fucking market seems to think that single-side staking and earning a yield matters. This isn't new. But because, you know, our community has to do backflips to justify the unjustifiable, this is now a fucking conversation. So that's that. Let me keep reading your comments. Folks, I haven't even gotten to the alpha. I haven't even gotten to the fucking fantastic alpha. I want to reward you guys with fucking great alpha when it comes to how I've been consistently buying local lows. I'm going to share that with you guys. I want to share with you guys how I managed to get a fucking 3x with time, while PulseChain is like break even and PulseX holders are like deeply down. And I also want to share with you guys some alpha when it comes to PulseX. So, folks, stick around, like, subscribe, and share the stream. It's a brand new stream. I say this often, but I fucking genuinely mean it. Like every share, every like shares this to more people. And the fact this is a new stream, a new channel, like it helps out tremendously. When you fucking like BitBoy Crypto, makes no difference. But when you like the Brandon B Show, you know, it makes a tremendous difference because of how small comparatively the channel is. So let's try and get through these comments and then I could share some alpha. As someone training to become an IMT firefighter, I appreciate the first responder representation in your intro. Shout out to you, Mr. Chuck. That's very awesome. You guys are very dope and much needed good people. While I'm here talking about, you know, magic internet money, you're out there making a real difference. I've known many, not many is not. I was going to say many. I've known some EMTs, but a lot more firefighters. And I know the fucking work that you guys put in because I've had friends who, you know, I kind of see what they're up to. I was in that world for a minute back in another life when I was a young, healthy man. I used to be in the Army Reserves infantry here in Canada. And because it's the reserves, everyone has kind of like a full-time job. And I don't know how it is in the United States, but in Canada, it's either you were a cop, a firefighter, or an EMT if you were in the reserves, or you're like a student. So I fucking got a little sense of what it takes to be a good firefighter. And shout out to you, man, because I kind of understand a little bit, you know, more so than maybe the, you know, random average person, what kind of work you guys have got to put in. And that's fucking dope, man. Thank you for being here in the chat. Hopefully I can reward you with some alpha. Kid Crypto saying yield matters. That is why Hexagon's rushing over to PHUX. Another great point. PHUX has been absolutely killing it. And it's because they are paying fees plus incentive, which PulseX is not currently. They'll be rushing to 9-inch next. I don't know because, you know, I think there might be some first mover advantage going on with PHUX. in terms of kind of the altcoin market that isn't Gerard stuff. So we'll see. D Wage is saying when PulseX single side staking comes, fucks a 9-inch rect. I definitely think there will be a massive exodus towards PulseX when single side staking comes. Cryptologist is saying, bro, I got equity loan to invest in Richard F projects. Same here, man. Aaron is saying I was able to achieve squid status on these dips with PulseX, so now I can just sit back and enjoy. That's fucking fantastic, man. Good for you. That's awesome, Aaron. Not financial advice, but bull markets tend to get parabolic about a year and a half after the latest Bitcoin halving. So just keep in mind, man, this is a marathon, not a race. Michael L is mentioning something. He's saying, what are you saying? Bro, that opening song, are you kidding me? Fire emoji. Yeah, guys, I paid a buddy on Fiverr a couple $100 to make that rap intro for me. I think it's fucking frankly amazing. Like, I had like very low expectations when it came to that like kind of intro song. I'll play it briefly just for a fucking couple seconds. I think
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.
So
Repeat,
I kind of
this is
edited
not a
this
test.
intro.
Stay tuned for further instructions.
Hey, yeah, we broke the ceiling. We going from broke to billions. Sex up next, yo, we plotting the pump. No vex for a hex, yo, we locking it up.
It's a real rap song.
PulseChain, no, we not in a rut. With a heart like Richard the Marcus, we best. I'm a day one sacrifice, yeah, we guess. And we going from broke to bees, we invest crypto, we
Broke to bees, folks. We're going from broke to billions. I mean, that's a dope ass rap song, guys. It's like my anthem. I had like super low expectations. I just threw a few $100, and buddy came back with that fire. Like it's a legitimate rap song. It's fucking dope. Shout out to you, buddy. I forget your name. Thought I'd shout you out. But I'm surprised how few people have commented on that because it's my fucking like it's the channel rap song. It's legitimately dope. Okay, enough of you guys commenting and engaging and all this shit. It's time to talk about some real fucking alpha here. Let's delve into it finally. You guys are distracting me with all this engagement and all this good faith and all this fucking positivity. Not a single one of you have mentioned your preferred gender pronouns. I took like 15 minutes. I delayed the stream 15 minutes in order to select my preferred gender pronouns, and not a single one of you have rewarded my bravery with mentioning your preferred gender pronouns in the comments below. So I frankly don't know why I'm going to reward you, why I should reward you with this fucking massive alpha, how I've been consistently buying local bottoms, this PulseX stuff, and this outperformance stuff. I don't know why I'm going to, but I guess I'm just a good guy. All right, so let's get started here, folks, into the meat and potatoes of what I had kind of planned. Nope, that's not the screen I want. That is the screen I want. Okay, shout out to me for figuring that out. Okay, so for those of you who can't see, I implore you to squint because this is kind of very, very important here. This is kind of what I'm hinting at here as to why I titled the stream what I did and why the thumbnail is what it is. Because we're all asking ourselves, we have these three great options. The fuck do we buy? Do we just do 33%, 33%, 33% each? Maybe, like, at the end of the day, you can't go wrong holding all of it, right? But there are some interesting considerations nonetheless. And one of those interesting considerations has been PulseX. PulseX has been underperforming. It's been kind of cast aside. All this question of whether or not single-side staking will come or not has been casting a large shadow on the potential growth, the potential price performance of PulseX. And fucking, like, nobody's been talking about PulseX, guys. Like, if you look at all, the streamers, whatever, no one's kind of been saying PulseX praises, and rightly so. I mean, Fux has been getting all the volume with the non-RH tokens. Richard has been doing his best to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt as to the design intention of his own fucking decks. The price has been doing shit. It's been dramatically underperforming. Everyone's saying we raised too much. And so everyone's been dismissing PulseX. Everyone's been ignoring it. But not me, not Brandon B, not the master of coin and protector of gains. Okay, I'm the master of insight. I'm here to deliver insight because what I fucking want, guys, this is what I want. This is why I do what I do. I want to say come 2025, 2026, I fucking looked after my people. All these fucking crypto influencers fuck over their community over and over and over. I cannot, like, literally, if you look at the fucking top 10, and, you know, fuck it, I might get in trouble and this might close some doors, you know, some business relationship opportunities for me saying this, but I don't give a fuck. I'm here to get rich off investing, not off being a dick suck. Guys, all these fucking large crypto YouTubers, they fuck over their audience constantly, and they don't reflect, they don't learn, they don't course correct, because they have business relationships they want to maintain. Like, their YouTube is a business. For me, guys, I got fucking 1K subs. At my peak, on my other channel, I had 36,000 subs. And at that point, like, we were starting to make some decent money, but it's fucking nothing. My point is, you can, I think, trust me. Don't trust me, but you can trust me in a sense, because I'm motivated to get this investment thing right. That's how I make my money, not because of fucking business relationships and not calling out fucking things that should be called out, because, oh, it's going to fuck up this business relationship, and, oh, I can't get this sponsor because I called this guy out and that sponsor is associated with this guy. Fuck that shit. I want to get this investment thing right, and we've got to consider these little nuances. So I don't know how I got on that little rant, but it's out there now. Let's talk about PulseX. Guys, let me just read out this tweet to you to kind of, you know, contextualize this conversation. I don't think folks understand what's happening with PulseX. If volume on PulseX simply trends sideways for the next 2 years, roughly 10% of liquid PulseX supply would have been not just burnt, but first bought on the open market and then burnt. This is assuming that we don't get a parabolic increase in volume, which we are extremely likely to get a parabolic increase in volume. All right, guys. So this means we're looking at potentially several double digits worth of PulseX being bought and burnt within its first fucking cycle. This is huge. Let me show you guys what the fuck I mean by all this. All right. And if you're offended by me saying fuck, then fuck off. Then you can go fucking. All right. Like, look through the fuck, because what I'm actually talking about is extremely impactful. I hate people who I don't understand. I don't want to say hate. I don't understand people who can't look through a couple bad words when what you're talking about is deeply impactful. So anyways, I've been getting some flack for swearing. So that's where that's coming from. This means that the true supply is really a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the total market cap. So let me share what I mean by all this. What I'm trying to hint at is I don't think people realize within this community, because it's not like a popular narrative at all currently, how fucking scarce PulseX is going to get this bull market. And allow me to share what preempted this realization in me. And guys, folks, like, sub, and share the stream. People need to hear this shit. So what I happened to discover, so I was on go.pulse.com, and I was just looking at some stats, and I was asking myself, you know, where should I deploy my dry powder? Because I've been buying some PulseChain, I've been buying some PulseX, I've been putting out some polls that, I've been asking people, should I do like a 50-50 split? Should I do 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, 100% in PulseChain? I've been asking, Twitter, trying to get a understanding of what the market consensus is. That way, maybe I can gain some insight by behaving in a contrarian fashion. I've just been trying to get a little bit of insight into what might be a more or less optimal way to, go about this, right? And so I found myself on go.pulse.com. I was looking at some statistics, and I realized something huge, something that I don't think a lot of people have realized. And again, I think I'm reasonable in putting it that way, because I don't fucking see anyone talking about this on streams. I'm on Twitter very often, and I don't see people talking about this on Twitter. I think there's a huge gem hidden in the PulseX statistics that I don't see anyone talking about, that I think is deeply impactful when it comes to potentially the performance, potentially scarcity, potentially how it might make sense, may or may not make sense to go about deploying dry powder. So without further ado, let me fucking explain what I'm hinting at here. Let's take a look at the PulseX statistics. All right, the volume, the supply, the burning, because once I think what I'm hinting at gets revealed here, if we extrapolate this behavior into the future, well, this can be deeply impactful. So, number one, we have a bunch of statistics here. Statistics by themselves can be rather, if you might not necessarily know the importance of statistics when you look at it by itself, but when you compare it to other statistics, then that in doing so, you start to get a sense of whether or not there may be something kind of interesting in the weeds. And what I'm trying to get at here is that go.pulse.com has this function where you can include the origin address supply, basically kind of Richard Hart supply, or you can exclude it, right? And so what I've been kind of trying to do is I've been kind of comparing the supply, comparing the volume, comparing the market caps, and trying to see if, hey, maybe something's a little bit undervalued here, something's a little bit undervalued there. And folks, if we exclude the origin address supply, which I think is reasonable to do so, then something very interesting starts to be revealed here with PulseX. All right. What's interesting, number one, is the supply, 21 trillion. So this is the non-Richard Hart supply. This is basically the supply that people like me and you hold. All right. This is the potentially liquid supply that's not locked up, right? Like, the origin address is very likely not to sell, hasn't sold in the past. It's a benevolent entity, yada, yada, yada. Now, if we compare this theoretically liquid supply with how much supply is on the decentralized exchanges, on the order books, so to speak, on the market, it's only 2.2 trillion. So roughly fucking speaking, only 10% of the supply is touching the market at any one given point. So let's put and consolidate into fucking human being, easy to understand terms, the impact of what I just described. Really, when we're talking about the potential performance of PulseX, we're not talking about the total supply. We're not talking about the origin address supply. We're not even talking about the liquid supply. We're talking about the liquidity on the DEXs, because that's ultimately what impacts the price. What impacts the price is not the OA, not even what we're holding. It's what's on the fucking liquidity pools. It's what's in the decentralized exchanges. So really, our first major understanding here is what determines price is really a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the total supply of the total market cap. So what we're really dealing with here is, when it comes to understanding what portion of the supply impacts price, is a much, 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 much smaller portion of the total supply that isn't obvious when you just look at a fucking market cap site. All right. It's really a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, right? You got to exclude the origin address. You got to exclude, the liquid supply that's not on the decentralized exchanges. Now, there's a bit of nuance when it comes to this point that I hope you guys will appreciate. It's a bit fucking, maybe this conversation is a bit nerdy, but it's actually deeply impactful. So people will contradict the importance of the point I'm bringing up by saying that the total liquid supply, again, non Richard supply, basically, just retail supply, basically, they would say that retail supply does matter in addition to what's on the liquidity pools, because that supply does interact with the market, but that supply interacts with the market in a predictable fashion. I mean, I'm pretty sure, since this shit's all on chain, you could come up with some fucking mathematical formula as to the frequency in which illiquid supply becomes liquid and interacts with the market. But regardless, even if we concede the point that the supply that matters when it comes to determining price performance is the liquidity plus a bit more supply that enters the market whenever we pump. Even if we grant that, ultimately what is determining price and potential future price performance is still a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the total market cap. So that's kind of our first major interesting piece of insight into how PulseX may perform long term. Our second extremely interesting piece of insight that I think might dramatically change the consideration, the risk reward ratio moving forward, is the fucking amount of supply that has been burnt. Guys, this 1.2% you see right here is a giant deal. So basically, this is the liquid supply right here, 21 trillion, right? 245 billion has been burned so far. 245 billion is 1.22% of the total liquid supply. We have burned 1.22% of the total liquid supply barely within the fucking first 2 months. 2 months of PulseChain being live. Now, if you pair that understanding with the reality that volume has been down, has been dead. Let's get something straight here. Volume has been dead. PulseX mainnet, PulseChain mainnet has only been out for 2 months. So with only 2 months of existence and fucking fuck all for volume, we have burnt 1.22% of the total supply. Now, it is my understanding, based off how we acted historically, and when we've had parabolic blow-off tops compared to the latest Bitcoin halving historically, it is not unreasonable to assume that I think the next bull market will be a year to a year and a half after the next Bitcoin halving. Next Bitcoin halving is March 2024. Therefore, we're likely to have some parabolic blow-off top, likely second, third, fourth quarter 2025, which means we have roughly 2 years of more volume. So if we extrapolate how we've behaved in the first 2 months as to how we can behave over the course of the next 2 years, that means that if we continue to behave, if the volume continues to just maintain in the same way it has in the first 2 months over the course of the first 2 years, that fucking means, folks, throughout the course of the next bull market, we will have bought and burnt 10% of the liquid PulseX supply, and that is if volume remains consistent. Volume is extremely likely, if this ecosystem is to succeed, to increase parabolically over the next couple months and years, which means that there is not an unlikely case that over the course of the next bull market, the course of the next 2 years, that 10, 20, 30% of the liquid PulseX supply might be bought and burnt over the coming months and years. Folks, this is not trivial. This is deeply impactful here. So let's kind of circle back and summarize what we're saying here. What we're seeing is the liquid supply is really 21 trillion. In the first 2 months, we've burned 1.22%. If we extrapolate that over the course of the next 2 years, in the next 2 years, we're likely to burn 10%. But that's assuming consistent volume. Volume is likely to increase parabolically. So if shit volume translates to a 10% buy and burn over the next 2 years, what does increasing volume, what does parabolic volume translate to over the next 2 years? Could we see a 20% buy and burn of the liquid supply, a 30% buy and burn, a 40% buy and burn of the liquid supply? Folks, this is a giant deal. That 1.22%, the fact that we've burned that within the first 2 months, people don't understand what a big deal that is because they see, 1.22%, what does that mean? Folks, 1.22% of liquid supply in the first 2 months. We got 2 years of bull market ahead of us. What does that mean? If we extrapolate that, okay, over the course of the next fucking 2 years, that's 10%. But if volume's increasing parabolic, guys, do you understand what I am saying here? I am suggesting that a fucking giant portion of the liquid PulseX supply is likely to be bought and burnt cycle one. Like, we might get rid of 30% of the liquid PulseX supply cycle one, where that supply is not just going to be burnt, but it's first going to be bought on the open market. And sure, you know, if PulseX ultimately gets fixed and fees are paid out correctly, and the buy and burn is dampened down by quite a bit, okay, sure, that's going to lower the buy and burn, but an increase in volume is likely to compensate for that fact. So whatever way you slice it, guys, what I'm ultimately saying here is I don't think this community realizes what a giant portion of the liquid PulseX supply is going to be bought and burnt over the course of the next 2 years. And guys, like, there's been supply burns all the time throughout crypto, and they vary in degrees of how impactful they are. Like, if you just burn a bunch of supply that's held by the team that wasn't interacting with the market in the first place, it doesn't fucking matter too much, does it? But if you burn supply that is interacting in the market, like the supply that gets burned is supply that is in the fucking liquidity pools. Like, it's supply that's liquid. It's supply that's interacting in the market. Supply that's affecting the price. That supply is not only just being burnt, but it's being bought in the first place. This is deeply impactful, and I think I am not getting a sense that people realize what a fucking giant deal it is to first buy and burn significant chunks of the PulseX supply. I mean, guys, what do you think the impact of just removing 30% of the liquid PulseChain supply would be? Like, what do you think the impact would be if 30% of all liquid hex was just automatically staked out forever? I don't see anyone talking about this, guys. And this is a huge deal. I want to ask you guys, am I fucking crazy? Am I the only one who's seeing these numbers and understanding the impact of these numbers? Because I literally don't see anyone else talking about this. I mean, K4K, shout out to K4K. He was like the biggest like PulseX bull in the world. I think he's taking time off doing his own thing. Good for him, man. But my point is, like, I don't even see the PulseX bulls mention this. Am I fucking making sense to you guys? Like, is there something I'm not seeing here? Some aspect I'm failing to consider as to how the impact of what I'm suggesting might be minimized? Because unless there's something I'm not seeing here, this is a giant fucking deal, and I don't see anyone talking about this. So, fucking like and subscribe, folks. And, you know, maybe I should swear less. I don't know. Maybe I come off like, I don't know, what an uneducated when I say fuck. Like, maybe it's just like a filler word that I say because I don't have anything else better to say. Maybe it's just kind of like a replacement for saying you know, I say a lot, unfortunately. You'd think after so many years of being a YouTuber, I would have learned to be, you know, to improve my rhetoric, but supposedly not. I should probably try not to swear so much, but I mean, goddamn it, guys. Like, I'm excited about this stuff. No one else is noticing this. I'm literally dropping massive alpha on you guys. And what is alpha? Alpha is essentially, you know, a piece of insight that gives you an edge that the rest of the market doesn't have. But again, I don't see anyone else talking about this. I don't see anyone else talking about the impact of what that 2% actually means. People just see 1%. And they say, oh, but what's 1%? It's nothing. No. If you read into this and extrapolate, you know, some reasonable considerations into the future, no, this is deeply impactful. This is a giant deal, guys. Like, if you're not sharing this stream, what are you doing? Like, this is legitimately alpha. Like, people just throw in alpha in a live stream title all the time, but I don't see anyone talking about this. And if I'm right about my conclusions, this is likely to be deeply impactful. So, you know, I kind of was delving all into this yesterday, and I think this is kind of swaying my buying behavior personally. Like, I was frankly going to go like all in on PulseChain, like maybe do like a 90-10 split, 90% PulseChain, 10% PulseX, 80% PulseChain, 20% PulseX. But you know, with this understanding, I might do 60-40, 70-30. Like, I do think while this isn't the end all be all, I think this is like a very interesting thing that does sway things quite considerably. I don't think this community has fully realized how much of the liquid supply is going to be burnt cycle one. Guys, Bitcoin's been around over a decade. Like, what is this going to look like after 2 cycles, after 3 bull markets? What is the buy and burn is going to be like, guys, if PulseChain sticks around the next 10 years, we're talking about 20-30% of the liquid supply being removed in the first 2 years. If we stick around 4 or 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, the amount of supply that is going to be bought and burned is astronomical. It's crazy. Like, folks, we're talking about the potential of 20, 30, 40% of the liquid supply being gone in the first 2 years. What about the next 4 years? What about the next 6 years? What about the next Bitcoin having 2028, next bull market 2029? Having after that is 2032, next bull market 2033. Next having after that's 2036, next bull market 2037. Bitcoin's been around 10 plus years. Why couldn't this? We're talking about removing massive chunks of the liquid supply in the first 2 years, guys. This is huge. This is a big, big, big deal, guys. This is a huge, huge deal. This is a big deal, and I don't see anyone talking about this. Folks, please, kindly, let me know in the comments. Are you guys, like, when I laid this case, when I present my understanding, are you guys, like, is this making sense? Am I doing a good job of communicating the potential here? Do you guys disagree with me? Is there something I'm failing to? Is there like another angle that I'm not considering here? Like, you guys let me know. Am I doing a half decent job of communicating the impact of this understanding? Like, I don't know. Am I fucking just talking to myself? Let me know in the comments. What are you guys saying? Crypto land is saying 50 mil, 24-hour volume is dead. Yeah, but guys, the volume is only looking to increase over time. Crypto land is saying that's great with basically no projects. Solana and AVAX doing similar volume numbers. Exactly. It's super early. Liquidity can be added at will, won't go down. In fact, it was 1.9 a couple of weeks ago. That's another interesting point. Liquidity can be added, can go up or down, but the liquidity is not going to be, it's not going to be like, it might go up and down 50%, 20%, 10% here and there, but it's likely not to be orders of magnitude. D Weed just saying, how much PulseX do we need to hold? I think not financial advice, but I think being a squid is something you should work towards, but that's not financial advice. JB is saying, Brandon, can you comment on how PulseX competes with upgrades happening with Ethereum and Uniswap lowering fees to possibly zero? Okay, JB, so I think you're referring to the news of Uniswap thinking of launching a version 4 where you don't have to pay fees, sort of thing. In terms of competition with PulseX, I really don't think PulseX and Uniswap are competing with each other in that sense. So I think I would agree with Richard R. in that a Uniswap version 2 fork is probably best when it comes to pumping the price. But who knows? We might get a version 3, version 4 upgrade with PulseX in the future, but that's likely to be quite some time down the road. There's still single-side staking. It's still a ton of shit to do. Did all the hex get taken off the market after the Pulse and PulseX sacrifice? Help the price. PulseX was a money grab. It serves no purpose. Yeah. So this is a very good point, right? So Village Watcher is essentially criticizing the importance of my point here, right? So I think it's important that we consider this critique. So unfortunately, I can't fucking bring it up. I don't know why the comments on my StreamYard isn't working, but let me just kind of restate the question and let's consider it here. So Village Watcher saying, did all the hex taken off the market after the PulseX sacrifice help the price? PulseX was a money grab. It serves no purpose. Okay, so we're talking about supply being removed here, right? And he's saying that, hey, the supply with hex being removed didn't really affect it, and that's true. But I think the giant distinction here is the supply is not just being removed off the market. It is first being bought. It is the buy and burn aspect that not only introduces a massive bullish narrative that doesn't exist with Hex, but also I think legitimately changes the situation. Like the quality of whale holders, the liquidity situation, the nature of bag holders, whether they're long-term minded or just short-term pumping up people, matter tremendously. And just as that matters, the nature of what portion of supply is being burned matters. It's supply that's liquid interacting with the market that's first being bought on the open market. So there's buy pressure. So you're removing supply that's interacting with the market, but it's first being bought. So I think that increases its impactfulness. I think also what increases its impactfulness is the fact that PulseX is in its first cycle, and this is being done coming into a bull market. So whenever you have a bullish narrative like this, if you have a bullish narrative and you launch a coin with a bullish narrative in the beginning of a bear market, that bullish narrative isn't as impactful. But if you introduce a piece of game theory, a piece of tokenomics that improves the bullish narrative, getting started into a bull market, which is what's happening in our case, I think that helps out tremendously. So number one, a lot of the supply being bought and burnt on the open market helps the narrative. And the fact that we're now entering a bull market, plus the supply is first being bought and burnt, I think makes this consideration potentially more impactful. Because I get what you're saying. That's actually a good point. Because, Hex had all the supply removed off the open market, but we had this massive fucking dump regardless, right? And I think that's due to a couple of things. I think that's due to the fact that we were entering a bear market and the fact that Hex was absurdly parabolic and did a 10,000x. Like, something you got to understand about markets, guys, is that we oscillate in between extremes. We always go from one extreme to the opposite extreme. And Hex's extreme was more fucking extreme than 99% of the rest of the market. I mean, Hex did a 10,000x. I think the only thing that did better was like Pepe. Like, it was the best performer in the market. So when we visited the utmost extreme of an extreme, well, we got to fucking visit the opposite extreme. And so I think there were some considerations with Hex that makes it unique, that I think makes this situation with PulseX different and perhaps more impactful. Thank you for asking that question, because I think it's very important to not be under a fucking delusion, to not kid yourself, right? Like, it's important to ask yourselves, how could we be wrong? Like, if we think we've identified a piece of alpha that gives us an above average level of insight, we should ask ourselves at the same time, how could I be wrong about this? What am I missing? Am I crazy? That's why I love talking to you guys. And I think it's worthwhile to have this conversation with you guys now, because it's important to ask yourself, how could I be wrong? You don't want to be delusional about things. Like, again, this ultimately speaks to the fact that for me, why you want to subscribe, why you want to like and subscribe is these nuances are not trivial. Getting this right or wrong does matter tremendously. I have my life savings invested in this ecosystem, Richard Hart and non-Richard Hart stuff. So it matters tremendously whether or not these little nuances have an impact or whether they don't have an impact. So it's important to learn and to learn from your mistakes. And so in doing so, it's very important to hear the opposite side of the situation. It's important to play the devil's advocate. It's important to not be delusional. It's important to not be so single-minded. Like, it's so funny, guys. Like, the only reason why you can afford to have the kind of this maximalist ideology within this community is because we have the benefit of being invested into Richard Hart, who's very, very fucking uniquely good at creating a shit ton of opportunity. But you gotta understand, having that attitude outside of this ecosystem gets you fucking wrecked. Like, we're lucky to have found Richard Hart, who's very good at creating cryptocurrencies that appreciate well, but like 99 of other cryptocurrencies fail. Like, this is very fucking rare. Like, it's such a luxury. It's such a privileged position to be a maximalist within this community, because, with maximalism, with toxic maximalism, because you can arrive to a maximalist position having analyzed the entirety of the market and come to the conclusion that Richard Hart has the best risk to reward ratio. But I don't see that being the case with a lot of toxic maximalists. I see a lot of toxic maximalists having luckily stumbled upon to this opportunity, and therefore, having understood the opportunity within this ecosystem correctly, shutting off their brain to outside considerations. And it just so happens that they're in this one, that they got lucky in doing so in this one niche that they will be profitable for shutting off their brain in this circumstance. But you can't do that outside our niche, guys. Like you got to be able to see the other side. You got to be able to seek out differences of opinion. You got to understand nuance and appreciate nuance and learn from your mistakes, because fucking anywhere outside our ecosystem, you get punished for not doing so. I know I sure shit did in the bull market. I made every fucking mistake in the book, but the thing that I think's kept me in the game is my extreme willingness to seek out nuance, to seek out the truth, to seek out what's right, and to fucking learn from my mistakes. So because I see people in this space who are streamers, and I see a lack of willingness to engage in difficult conversations, and it scares the shit out of me, because I know that if I adopt that attitude long term, you fail when it comes to investing. You know, you can get lucky and do well because you're early in a Richard Hart product, but that attitude long term is the death of you. It scares the shit out of me. And so, you know, hope you guys appreciate my my perspective. If you do so, like and subscribe. What the fuck are you guys doing? You know, there's 1,000 dick suckers out there who will do nothing but tell you what you want to hear. But to be a successful investor, you need to do the exact opposite. You need to actively seek out exactly what you don't want to hear. You need to actively seek out criticism. You need to actively seek out and understand risk. That is the only way you succeed long term as an investor. And these people who just keep telling you what you want to hear over and over and over and over again, and just this echo chamber, you can only get away with that because you got lucky with Richard Hart. But if you applied that attitude to investing in any other fucking niche, you would fail. Like, you can't have that attitude. And I see it too often, man. I see this false, unearned confidence, and it scares the shit out of me, dude. It scares the shit out of me. This is why I'm so willing to hear out criticism. Why I'm so eager personally to have conversations where we explore differences of opinion. Like, I don't know how many of y'all watch my streams consistently, but whenever I invite guests, I always love bringing up, you know, the latest scandal, the latest Twitter beef, because it is through exploring these differences of opinion that you get a sense of who knows what, of where insight can and can't be found, whether alpha can be found or not. So that's what I try to do. Hope it comes across. Let's keep reading some comments here before I go on. Mark T saying, LOL, look through the F word. Aha, that is cool. Yeah, guys, like, these people who get hung up on the swearing, it's like, really? That's what you took away? Not this massive level of insight that took years of hellfire to forge this wisdom that you dismiss just because you heard an F-bomb? I mean, come on. Day Wade just saying, I'm going 100% PulseX. It is what I'm betting on, some Bitcoin, and I'm good. Yeah, man, that's, you know, I'm not your financial advisor, but I do think PulseX will do well for sure. PulseX is my biggest position, and which is why, guys, like, when I went off about criticizing, you know, Richard Hart on PulseX and single side staking, PulseX is my largest position. I am deeply, deeply financially invested in PulseX doing well. So I think you can trust my motivations and that I'm being, you know, I value having logical integrity, intellectual integrity. I will criticize what warrants criticism, even, you know, if it warrants it. Like, even if it goes against my financial best interests, because those little nuances matter. Brandon, can you help me with the FOMO? Like, I need at least 3 more months to get some decent bags, but I'm freaking out, and I think I'll be late. No, man, guys, we got years. Guys, I'm going to be a net buyer for the next year and a half, 2 years. We got years and years of buying dips ahead of us. Not to mention, I haven't even got to how I've been consistently buying local bottoms. In this live stream, I want to share with you guys exactly what I've been doing that has led me to consistently, time after time, get very, very close to accumulating local bottoms with PulseChain and PulseX. I've been doing an uncannily good job. I'm frankly surprised at how good a job I've been doing at buying local bottoms. And for those of you interested, I've been sharing every single time I buy a local bottom in my VIP Discord group. There's a link to join down in the description below through my Patreon group. We're in there. I do share what I'm doing behind the scenes. None of it's financial advice, but whenever I dollar cost average, I share, in real time, momentarily after my buys, my sells, that kind of thing. I also share my portfolio percentage breakdown, my take profit strategy. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, and if you can very easily afford it, then check out my Patreon group down in the description below. My Patreon group is on purpose very expensive because I don't want noobs and I don't want people who it's a struggle. Like, I only want people who can very, very easily afford that group in that group. If it's even a question for you, I would prefer you buy PulseChain, PulseX, not financial advice. So that's that. Ivor Biggin is saying, just reading your tweet, I thought PulseX burns more the lower the price. That doesn't make sense. And the buy and burn is reduced the higher the price of PulseX. The buy and burn has absolutely nothing to do with the price of PulseX. It has everything to do with the volume. The more the volume, the more the buy and burn. The volume of PulseX is likely to increase parabolically over the years, which is why the buy and burn is likely to increase parabolically over the years, which is why we might see significant portions of the liquid PulseX supply being burnt over the course of the next couple of years here, which is potentially a big deal. Willie Nelson is saying, time, baby, give me your thoughts. Buy on this dip. We'll wait a bit further to go down. Okay, so you know what? This is a great transition to talk about how I have been consistently buying dips in PulseChain, PulseX, Hex, and Time. So I want to thank you guys for staying tuned to this live stream as long as you have, and I want to reward you guys with this massive piece of alpha. Also, if you want to kind of return the favor, scratch my back as I've scratched your back, folks, please do like and subscribe and share the live stream. This is a brand new channel. We just hit over 1,000 subscribers. So when it comes to these smaller channels, guys, your support makes so much more of an impact, proportionally speaking, than these large channels. When you subscribe to BitBoy Crypto, he doesn't give a fuck. When you subscribe to the Brandon B Show, behind the scenes, I see every new subscriber, and I'm like, fucking shout out to you, man. And I remember your guys' names. And when I see you again in the comments, I remember you guys. I know you guys who come around often at different streams. I shout you out. So you make a difference here. And I just know that it's very much so appreciated. Like, sub, share. All right. So let's reveal, without further ado, how the fuck I've been buying bottoms. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out to you these green fucking lines here. I don't know if you can see these green lines. Maybe I should make them a bit thicker. Maybe I'll zoom in a bit more. There we go. All right, so these green lines represent where I've been buying. I bought this dip here. I bought this dip here. I bought this dip here of the retest. And I bought this dip here. So how the fuck have I been buying local bottoms so consistently well? For those of you who haven't followed my Twitter, I invite you to follow my Twitter, link for that down in the description below. And the frank secret is, folks, I've been using the 4-hour and 2-hour relative strength index, a lagging momentum indicator, to time my dollar cost averages. And this, 4-hour and 2-hour RSI has been doing an uncannily good job of helping me get extremely close to buying local bottoms, not perfectly, but pretty goddamn close. And pretty goddamn close is better than nothing. This is not a perfect metric. It is a useful metric. So if we look at the 4-hour RSI, and then we look at every single time we've entered the oversold region, it is not perfectly timed a low, but god fucking damn it, it's timed it pretty goddamn close. I mean, these lows here, this oversold region, massive dip. This was pretty goddamn close to the all-time low for PulseChain, right? That's a pretty goddamn close to buying the bottom here. Examining this major dip, look at that on the 4-hour RSI. that dip into the oversold region was a giant local low. So if you would have just bought, here, we entered the oversold region, bought that low. Entered the oversold region, bought that low. You would have bought 2 of the local lows pretty goddamn closely. Now, 4-hour, bit of a higher time frame for relative to the amount of time we've existed. So I've also been pairing this understanding or this strategy with the 2-hour RSI. We're looking at the 2-hour. We enter kind of the oversold region here, bought a little bit here. Was it the perfect bottom? No, but was that a local bottom? Yeah. We get close to or in the oversold region here. I bought some more here. See that green line? That's exactly where I bought, folks. And it's because we got close or to the oversold region, which is really the 30 mark on the relative strength index. And that's where I bought. So see, guys, if you kind of pair the 4-hour for kind of the macro and the 2-hour for micro, you get a sense of what it takes to get close to buying local lows. Like if you just look at every time we've entered the oversold region on the 4-hour RSI, those were fantastic buying opportunities, right? So it seems to me like there's a good chance that we might get pretty goddamn close. We might not enter the oversold region, but we might get pretty goddamn close. So isn't it funny that in this case, we are getting very close to the oversold region on the 4-hour RSI, that paired with the inflection point, with the price sensitive relative area of the average day one stack rate, triple zeros and a 1, I think there's some pretty good reason to think that we might find some consolidation either at or around these regions, which looks to me like a pretty decent buy. Looking at the chart, we're in a micro downtrend. You want to buy micro downtrends. We have a significant support level, pretty goddamn close, that you want to buy support. We're getting pretty goddamn close to being oversold on a macro indicator that has been historically relevant. Like we have a confluence of reasons to think that this area that we're in now might not be a perfect bottom, but we might be pretty goddamn close. And you don't have to buy and time bottoms perfectly. If you can just do it roughly, it's highly profitable. Can you guys see me right now? Am I talking to myself? I seem to be getting quite a bit of lag. I don't know if you guys can actually hear me. Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh. Are we experiencing some lag? Hold on. You guys can hear me, right? It just seems like I'm buffering on my end. If you guys can let me know you can hear me in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate that. So yeah, guys, look, while I wait for someone to let me know if you can hear me, I suppose I'll continue. Yes, loud. Ivor Biggin, thank you, my guy. All right, so guys, look, I've been very consistently buying local lows, and I pair kind of the 4-hour for the macro, 2-hour for the micro, because the 4-hour, there's some kind of local lows that doesn't quite hit the oversold region. So I've been pairing kind of my dollar cost average strategy between the 2-hour and 4-hour. And while this isn't a perfect strategy, I think this is a way of getting pretty close to local lows. And getting pretty close to local lows is good fucking enough, because you're never going to consistently time the very bottom of a downtrend and consistently time and exit the very top of an uptrend. You're never going to do that. So throw that standard out the window. To be successful, you're just going to get roughly a bottom and take profits roughly near a top. And this has been a way that I've been doing this successfully, consistently. So if you're looking for, some kind of metric to look out for to do a little bit of a better job when it comes to timing your dollar cost averages, this has been working for me. Not financial advice, but I did want to share a strategy that's been working for me. And I saw Buddy mention time, and this applies with PulseX, Hex, Time, Fiat, whatever you like. Whenever PulseChain has gotten in the oversold region or close to, that's when I buy PulseX. That's when I buy a Hex. That's when I buy Time. That's when I buy Fiat. I wait for PulseChain to get close to or in the oversold region, and that's when I'll buy altcoins. So For Buddy who was asking about time, time has been doing absolutely fantastically. While PulseChain sacrificers are barely breaking even, while PulseX sacrificers are down tremendously, I have been talking about how I think time is one of the most undervalued things on PulseChain ever since the sacrifice phase, ever since we went live in this consolidation zone, ever since we were about a 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million dollar market cap. Now we're at a 4.2 million dollar market cap. I have been trying to warn and let my people know. I've been talking about on live streams about this rounded bottom. I've been talking about the importance of this valuation, and why I think time is important to bring up is because of its valuation. Folks, valuation is everything. Buying a fantastic asset at a bad valuation can be highly unprofitable. Buying a terrible asset at a fantastic valuation can be highly profitable. It is all about the price you pay for the good or service you get. The valuation is everything. And time and internet money had, I believe, the most attractive sacrifice phase out of anything launching on PulseChain, because between two fucking sacrifice rounds, they only raised $1.5 million. $1.5 million. Guys, Liquid Loans raised $40 million. That means for internet money and time to catch up to Liquid Loans, it's like what? Almost like a 30x? Almost, what is it? Hold on here. Let's ask Google, because Google is better at math than me. Google, what is 40 divided by 1.5?
The answer is approximately 26.666667.
Thank you, Google. The answer is approximately 26.6667. So, for time to catch up with Liquid Loans, it needs to 26x just to catch up to one of its fellow competitors or fellow builders in the space. The valuation on time was insanely valuable. And because it had such a great valuation of everything, PulseChain raised $1 billion, PulseX raised $1 billion, Liquid Loans raised $50 million, Fame raised $15 million, Fiat raised 10 million, I think. Mintra raised 10 million. Like, Liquid Loans or time needs to 10x just to catch up to its buddies. Only because time had such a fantastic valuation that it could pump hundreds of percent and still be insanely undervalued. Like, guys, we're sitting at a $4.2 million valuation after pumping hundreds of percent. I just told you, 4.2 million. Liquid Loans, they raised 50 million. Fiat, Fame, 15 million. Mintra, 10 million. So for these guys to just catch up to the valuations of their peers is several X's. Guys, Pepe is at a $700 million valuation in a bear market. It's a fucking meme coin. It does nothing. It's a logo. A logo is worth $700 million in a fucking bear market. In a bull, that thing will 10x. So for this, guys, for this thing to get a couple $100 million valuation is fucking not unreasonable. All right. We've seen if Pepe can get $700 million in a bear market, what could something with product market fit get in a bull market? I don't think it's impossible for this thing to get a valuation in the hundreds of millions in a bull market. Now, with this all being said, we have pumped hundreds of percent. The risk premium has increased. We're not at that $1.5 million market cap that we were at for a long time. I was screaming from the rooftops constantly, live stream after live stream, video after video, interview after interview, saying, hey guys, I think this is the most fucking undervalued thing in the world. But because people don't pay attention when price is down, unfortunately, people only pay attention when price is up. And I think in the grand scheme of things, in the long term, it's, 4.2 million is fucking nothing. It's still a great valuation long term. But fuck, man, if you think 4.2 is great, you should think 1.5 is even more fantastic. And I was screaming from the rooftops saying, guys, we're super, super undervalued when we were about $1.5 million, 1.2, $1.4 million valuation. So I say this to say it might be fucking worthwhile to like and subscribe. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying, I'm not providing financial advice. I'm just letting you guys know what the fuck I'm up to. I saw the product market fit. I saw the fantastic valuation. And, now, from the lows to the highs, this thing pumped 380%. If we go by candle close, 330%. From the lows till now, 220%. From when I was fucking interviewing KG to now, 150%. PulseChain stackers are breaking even. PulseX stackers are down tremendously. So this is why this example is why a little bit of diversification is justified. So just to clarify my understanding here, I think non-Richard Hart things bring with them a far greater degree of uncertainty and therefore risk premium, which is why I only choose to allocate a small portion of my portfolio to things like time, to things like fiat, to things like internet money, 2, 3, 5%, 10% at most, because things like time are, in my opinion, riskier than PulseChain, but with that risk comes the potential for that upside. We can see, how time holders, the potential for a 3x here. Meanwhile, PulseChain holders are breaking even, right? Like, again, there's more risk here, but there's also more reward here, which is why a little bit of diversification is not insane. I completely understand the argument that the risk premium in diversifying is completely unnecessary because PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex will do good enough long term. If you're one of these, Holy Trinity guys only, hey, I only invest in PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex because I don't think the risk is worth it. I completely understand that. And I completely respect that position. But it is the objective truth that some of these things can and do outperform PulseChain. Like, if we take a look here at, oh God, I had a great, like, look at this, guys. This is the PulseChain ecosystem. All right. And if we take a look at what's been performing the best over the last 30 days, you know what's been performing the best? IAM and time. They've been outperforming the shit out of PHEX, I can't even, where is PulseChain? Out of PulseChain, out of PulseX. This is the frank truth that non-RH things can outperform PulseChain, PulseX, Hex in the short term and in the long term, but they carry a lot more risk with them. So I'm suggesting that maybe a reasonable approach, which is what I'm doing, not financial advice, is keep the majority of my portfolio in the safer, more for sure things, PulseChain, PulseX, Hex, but maybe allocate a few percentage points here and there to maybe some of the high quality non-Richard Hart things because they have the potential to outperform. Not my opinion. The fucking market is showing us what are the top 2 performing things on PulseChain? Internet money and time. Oh, and wouldn't you fucking know it that internet money and time just so happen to have the fucking best valuations in this whole ecosystem. Like, guys, market cap, it does matter, guys. Market cap can be a highly, highly problematic way of thinking about things. It can be manipulated. That's why a lot of hexagons don't like talking about market cap because it can be easily manipulated, but it is not insignificant. Valuations do matter. Internet money has a valuation of $500,000. $500,000 is fucking nothing. This thing was like $100K for the longest time during its consolidation range. Time had a valuation of $1.5 million for the longest time, and no one was paying attention. But now that it's all pumped, now you guys are in my stream. Now you guys are paying attention. And I think in the grand scheme, it's still a great valuation. Look, about 4.2 million. Like I mentioned, Liquid Loans raised 50 million. Mintra raised 10 million. Fame Fiat 15 million. So this thing has to do several X's just to catch up to the starting point of other shit launching on PulseChain. So again, guys, isn't it funny that the things on PulseChain with the best valuations are doing the best? Guys, valuations matter. Market cap matters. The amount of economic energy infused into something initially matters. This isn't my opinion. The market is showing us, hey, I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 best performing things are the 2 most undervalued things with the best valuations. Guys, if you're not liking and subscribing to this channel, The fuck are you doing? In this live stream, I brought you giant alpha with PulseX that no one's talking about. I've shown you how I've consistently been buying local bottoms with PulseChain, PulseX, Hex, and these different cryptocurrencies. And I've also been fucking screaming from the rooftops for months about the insane opportunity, the insane undervaluedness of time, internet money, well, time mostly, and how it was at a great valuation. And now we're seeing the impact of this game theory playing out in real time. These things have been doing the best on PulseChain. So you can either like and subscribe to me, or you can go follow someone else who just repeats what you want to hear over and over and over and over again, and doesn't consider nuance and doesn't ever introduce a new thought. It's just this echo chamber where people repeat to each other, "Oh, aren't I fucking dope? Oh yeah, you're dope. Oh, aren't I fucking cool? Oh yeah, I'm super fucking cool." And they just fucking, it's just like this echo chamber, guys. But not me, man. Like, I think it's important to delve in nuances, delve into differences of opinion, explore the risk, explore the reward, and have an honest conversation of the risk and the reward. Because like I'm telling you guys, I said these things were undervalued as fuck, but at the same time, I'm not going all in. I'm only allocating a couple percentage points, 2, 3, 5, 10%, because I understand that even though there's higher reward, there's also higher risk, and risk is fucking real. And so when there's guys out there that say, "Hey, I think that risk is too high, I'm only going to stick to PulseChain, PulseX, Hex," I think that's totally reasonable. That's okay. That's totally fine. But there's people like me who have a higher risk appetite, and I think there are reasonable ways to diversify. I think there are some reasonable considerations. Just like I think there's a reasonable case to be just a Holy Trinity Maxi, PulseChain, PulseX, Hex. I think there are some reasonable arguments to justify a little bit of diversification. To be clear, guys, I'm not suggesting go all in on like time, internet money. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I think you need to be extremely highly selective. I only have fucking allocated, into a small handful of non-RH things. And when I do, it's a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10% at most. Like the vast majority of my portfolio remains PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex. But I just wanted to say all this to say that I don't think it is completely unreasonable to diversify a little bit in an intelligent manner, with the understanding that with higher risk potentially comes higher reward, but risk is very real. So don't go all in when, PulseChain, PulseX, and Hex probably can and will do pretty goddamn fantastic. There, I said it. I hope you guys appreciate it. Let's see. What else did I have in mind? I don't know, guys. I'm going on for over an hour and a half here. Should I keep going? Should I wrap up? Have I spread enough wisdom? Has your cup been filled of knowledge? Can you handle more alpha? Can you handle more knowledge? Well, if you can, like and subscribe. Let's see what you guys say in the comments. I fucking hate that I can't bring up your comments on my StreamYards because I want to shout you guys out on the live stream. I see Kubrick Maxi saying, "Wrap it up. Too much Brando for today." I agree, man. The amount of fucking alpha I have dropped today. I mean, fuck the amount of I don't want to shit on people, but guys, let's summarize what I've just fucking dropped in your guys' head. I have presented to you guys a massive bullish narrative and case for PulseX that no one else is discussing. I've shown you guys how I've been consistently buying local bottoms. And I've shown you guys why it's sensible to diversify a little bit and why valuations matter. If you're not liked and subscribed, if you're not sharing this live stream, then ask yourself, what are you doing, man? Like, do you want to, do you want other people to fucking succeed in this space, dude? Because look, obviously I'm shilling my own shit. I want my channel to do well, my streams to do well. But guys, like, I want to do well when it comes to investing. And I think it's important to have these discussions with each other because that's how you learn. How the fuck are you supposed to learn anything if you don't consider, different perspectives and hear people out and, and see if people have, different perspective, a different level of insight. It's the only goddamn way you learn. And it's important to learn because we're not talking about sports here, folks. Like getting this shit right or wrong. Like if I'm wrong about like the risk premium, then that will impact me and my community tremendously. If I'm right about diversification, then that will like deeply impact mine and yours return on investment. Even though none of this is financial advice, I understand that we're all talking about financial products, right? So, this stuff affects your return on investment. And guys, I've been at this game for years now, and I think I've learned a thing or two. But guys, like if I could start all over with the knowledge I have today, what I wouldn't give for that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But guys, look, I think there's still plenty of opportunity coming up. Remember to hydrate if you haven't been hydrating. As you may or may not know, I am the water champion on many things, right? Like I'm the master of coin. I'm the protector of gains. I am also the water champion. I've famously drink much more water than my friend and business partner, Messin. For those of you who know me back from the Millennium of the Moon days, me and Messin, we talk crypto, right? We're doing a bit of a pivot in another direction. And Messin's quite busy nowadays, but we do produce content still every now and again. And he's deeply dehydrated. I think that's frankly one of the reasons why he's had to step back, because I think Messin is suffering from so much dehydration that it clouds his judgment. And I consider myself a mentor to Messin in so many respects. I've taught Messin so much. Like I don't know if he's like to what extent he's grateful or not. And I don't know to what extent like he's really kind of picked up what I've been laying down. But I see myself as a mentor to him, not just when it comes to finance, but media, when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to personal health, right? Like as you all know, I'm amazingly fit. I'm tremendously beautiful in so many different regards, and I try as a friend to import some of that onto Messin in the hopes that he might listen, right? Like he's very ignorant and he doesn't pick up on certain things, but my hope is that he picks up on a thing or two. And who knows, with the amount of dehydration that he's suffering from, we can't even take his point of view. Like how much value is it truly behind it? Like, is he suffering from cognitive dissonance and cognitive decline due to his dehydration? We might never know. What we can say is that there's certainly consequences to dehydration, but I'm certainly not suffering from that particular ailment. I make sure to stay hydrated consistently, unlike Messin. A guy like that, he drinks plenty of like teas and like Coca-Colas and pops. He's like very unhealthy like that. But for me, it's all about water. It's all about hydration. So, shout out to Messin. He really likes it whenever I kind of explain, how much of a mentor I am to him. I know he kind of really appreciates that kind of stuff. So, that's why I wanted to bring that up. So, I hope you guys can appreciate that. Rex Schmitz is saying, "So you're a frog, Pepe?" Look, I don't mind the frog guys, but I'm more of a utility kind of guy. Much less risk. There's plenty of upside potential. I don't think the risk premium on Pepe is worth it whatsoever. Massive risk, and it's unclear whether the reward will justify it or not. PulseChain, much lower risk, and there's a clear thesis for good enough gains that I don't think the risk premium is worthwhile for me on Pepe. I've always saying, don't drink too much water. You'll get dehydrated. Facts. Well, it's not salt water. It's fresh water. And then Village Watcher saying, I'll show it too. Dump PulseX, buy Hex, and Pulse. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. Brando, Valiant Loki is saying Brando would have been good to see in a Kubrick movie. Why is that? Should I be offended? It sounds offensive because didn't Kubrick make that movie about like the guy with the axe like breaking down the door and the girl, she's like screaming and scared because the guy's trying to kill her with an axe? Are you suggesting that I'm that person? Or are you suggesting that my looks and my talent is that of an actor? Because if what you're suggesting is that I exude so much talent, so much looks, it's like when it comes to being a Hollywood actor, right? It's not just about the talent, it's about the looks, right? And I know I have that, and I think maybe that's what you're picking up on. If I had to guess. So yeah, if what you're suggesting is that, I have that mixture of like kind of looks, talent, brains, just like that trifecta, that I could be kind of that A-list level celebrity. I can definitely see what you're hinting at there. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, Kubrick Maxi saying The Shining. Ivor saying it is removing electrolytes. I would say that is fake news and government propaganda. I would say that you are deviating from the party line. And if you do so any further, not only will I report you to the CCP and make sure that your social credit score is lowered, but you will be sent to the gulags to learn all the new preferred gender pronouns and be taught by AOC. So, no, I would say smarten up. Smarten up. Okay. Folks, like and subscribe. If you don't, you'll be reported to the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. I will see to it personally that you are unable to move, take a train, go on an airplane, get a job. I will make it my dying mission to lower your social credit score. If after all this alpha, you are not liked, subbed, and if you did not share the stream, I would also encourage my followers to attack people personally. I'm kidding, man. I'm not fucking do that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You fucks. Do not do that. JB, I'm trying to wrap up, guys. You're asking all these fucking questions. Kidding. Sorry. I don't mean to be aggressive. JB saying, how do you feel about Internet Money Token and what its use case? Look, Internet Money Token is essentially just like a peer-to-peer digital currency. I think it's much higher risk, as it has less of a it's less so attached to a cash flow. It's less so attached to a adopted use case than time. So it has a much higher risk premium. But guys, that market cap is fucking nothing. Like 500,000 utter garbage reaches 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million in a bull market. So if time does well, I think Internet Money and time are correlated. I think time is correlated to PulseChain. I think Internet Money is correlated to time. So while it's not my cup of sugar, I think there's a case that Internet Money, IM specifically, might be undervalued, guys. Like, it's a great fucking name, Internet Money. IM, that logo, their logo is a digital dollar. Their name is Internet Money. Like, if Pepe can reach 700 million, why couldn't a logo, a digital dollar, and a name that says Internet Money? It's literally what all the shit is. All this shit is Internet Money, and that's what their fucking name is, and they have the digital dollar. If the frog logo can be worth 700 million, why can't the digital dollar logo be worth 700 million? I don't think it'll happen. I think it's extremely unlikely that it'll be the case. I think it's extremely high risk, but there's a non-zero chance, and you'll be rewarded for that non-zero chance if the fucking 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 case happens. If that ends up happening, it's very high risk. It's like when you have things like time that is already at such a great valuation, I find it hard for myself deploying any kind of significant funds towards IM. But fuck, man, no one's talking about it. It's correlated. It's flying under the radar. The market cap is fucking nothing. if this thing dips, I might buy some. I might buy some because internet money is correlated to time. Time is correlated to PulseChain. The valuation is nothing. Nobody knows what this thing is, but it has a great name and a great logo. And we've seen great names and great logos perform stupidly well. And if you have a great name and a great logo that's associated to something that's just so happens to already be doing well, time, which is associated to another thing that just so happens to already be doing well, PulseChain, I'm frankly hoping we get a bit of a dip. Because if we do, I might buy some internet money. Again, if I do so, it'll be like a very, very small amount. Because I think this is like risky as fuck. I think I frankly like time more, but you know, if Pepe can reach 700 million, why can't this? That should be a good place to stop end the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in. Remember to leave your preferred gender pronouns down in the comments below. I am Falconkin. I am non-binary. I am the master of coin and protector of gains. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, take care, folks.